What I do is inconsequential. Why I do what I do is I get to shorten people's journeys every day. What I love about our hospitality industry is that it's our mission to make people feel cared for while on their journeys. Together, we'll explore what hospitality means in the built environment, in business, and in our daily lives. I'm Dan Ryan, and this is Defining Hospitality. Today's guest is a designer for whom discovery is at the heart of what she does. She grew her firm out of the 2008 recession into a globally recognized creative studio. She was an HGTV host on Aloha Builds with her brother. Her firm was recently selected as one of BDNY's Gold Key Award winners for Best Guest Room Midscale, the Wayfinder Waikiki. She's the president and creative director at the Vanguard Theory. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Jaime. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, Dan.
It's so good to be out here in Hawaii. I have a really funny story. I love coffee. I love black coffee. And I'm staying over at the Laylow on Waikiki.
Right.
And I think her name is Clarissa. She was working at the little coffee bar there. And she said, "Do I want honey in my coffee?" I said, "I'd never heard of that in my entire life. And I'm a beekeeper."
Are you?
I am.
Did you know that's like my goal?
No. Oh, so we're going to have a whole separate conversation
All right.
outside of here. Really?
Yeah.
It's a symbol of hospitality, a bee.
Is it?
Yes.
No wonder.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm not kidding.
Oh, good. Well, we'll get in there a little bit, but I've
Okay,
never.
circle back to Clarissa.
Have you ever heard of honey in your coffee?
No one has ever asked that.
It's weird. It's really weird. But I had it. I went for a great run, and I came back and I said, "Clarissa, thank you." I felt like I was running on a cloud, and I think she forgot who I was and was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like all sweaty.
Gross.
And it was a really cool new experience. So now I'm gonna try that local honey in my coffee.
Are you a creamer or just?
No, just black.
Well, now and honey.
And honey. But I don't know. It's like, anyway, it was just very exciting. I'm excited to try it new. So I feel like I always experience and learn new things whenever I come to Hawaii.
Look at that, Clarissa.
Clarissa.
Just opening up your mind.
Yes. And my coffee. Well, I just want to say thank you for being here. I love being in Hawaii. It's exciting to be back. And as we get into our conversation, or before we do, like, what does hospitality mean to you and how do you define it?
Well, hospitality in Hawaii is sort of part of our culture. I mean, you'll probably hear people from the mainland say they come and visited for the first time and then got hanai'd or like adopted by a local family and then brought them over to the house and cooked for them and took them out to the beach and showed them their culture, showed them their neighborhood and their family. So it's very much a part of our culture here. So I think we grew up in Hawaii as kind of a duty to be like hospitable. And then on the larger kind of more like industry term, I think hospitality is the same thing in different types of projects like hotels. It's the same like exchange of you kind of taking care of people and showing them the ropes and then really showing them like the authentic part of your life.
And I mean, you've had a varied career journey, right? So you went to college here in Hawaii, born and raised in Hawaii, went to California, studied interiors.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you work when you came back to Hawaii from the mainland?
Well, so I had a kind of, cheers to whoever figures out what they want to do at an early age, but I had a lot of zigzags. So at first I thought I wanted to be like a psychologist, and I really did not have the emotional bandwidth for that, though I find it really interesting. And it does give me a lot of like foundation to work with right now. But I had a friend who owned a big interior design firm here called Philpotts Interiors.
Oh, wow. Who is the friend?
John Staub. And Marion Philpotts. Yeah.
I love them. I have to tell you, I'm going to tell you a life-changing story for me regarding John.
I mean, they were fabulous. Fabulous. And, growing up here, I had a very humble upbringing. So I didn't have any fancy friends, or I didn't have interior design friends, architect friends, anything kind of artsy in my life where that's what they did for a career. So it wasn't until like my 20s that I meet John and Marion, and they just they were so nice, and they were like, hey, if this is what you're interested in, come work in our library for a summer, see if this is what you like, and then maybe go back to school and do that. So I did. And I remember people, I mean, they had fancy clients. And I was working in the library, and one of the designers asked me, can you help me pull fabrics for Kelsey Grammer's sofa? I'm like, oh my God, pull a fabric. I don't know if they ever used my fabric, but it was like such a big deal. So I was hooked and then went back to school.
You have to think that they used the fabric on like a chaise lounge that he used when he was getting into character as a psychologist for Fraiser.
Oh, circle back.
I'm circling back to psychology. That was a good one, right? Did you study psychology in undergrad?
Undergrad, and I spent some time in graduate school doing that. Yeah.
So that's interesting because I think psychology and your definition of hospitality and kind of creating these spaces for others, I think that there's like a good Venn diagram about those
for sure.
three things.
Yeah.
And because it's so much of it is about empathy from what I've heard, seen and heard, and being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and have understanding for where they're coming from, and then you can meet them in the middle. Side note also, I started my hospitality career in a library at Hirsch-Bedner, in Santa Monica.
You did?
Yeah. I worked there for 2 summers. It was fun. Get to learn a lot, get to build shelves, reorganize everything.
Are you a little OCD? Do you like...
Sometimes. I have to like really focus in on something. But more than OCD, I'm like severe ADHD.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, like I've broken the spectrum of ADHD.
I think that's why you're probably very entrepreneurial.
I think so.
I got shades of that too.
But it's interesting. And actually hearing about, well, I'll ask them when we're done, but hearing about I forgot about your TV experience on HGTV until you reminded me today. But talk about varied, because you went to school, went to Philpotts, working in the library, went to graduate school,
right?
Came back, started working in design. Then you started a multi-line rep agency, but you said you hated it, or you weren't good at it.
I wasn't great at it, no.
And then you went in. How did you find your way to TV, HGTV?
You know, they found my brother. And
what's his name?
David. Yeah. And David's meant for TV. I mean, he really is. Like, he knows where the camera is. He knows his angles. He's got that TV voice, you know, and he's very talented as well. So they found him. He's featured in a local magazine, and a production company was down here trying to do a show in Hawaii about, you know, all the HGTV shows are kind of like, there's always like a brother and brother, a husband and wife. So when they asked him if he was interested, if he had like a partner like that, and he said, my sister. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't at first. And so. Was
he like the builder and you were the designer?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But so David design builds, like, so we don't work together normally, but so because he does everything himself, design builds, he does restaurants, houses and stuff. So we had to work together. And David and I are very close in age. We're a year and a half apart. So it was like it was a very new dynamic for both of us, for him kind of letting me design and me like, just because he's the end person who just builds everything.
But the show also wants you to get in arguments and fights.
No, not that show.
Oh, really? Okay. But yeah. I remember you told me this.
Bravo. It's like Real Housewives sort of thing. It's like HGTV. Everything is great.
And what year was that?
2018, I think.
Because I think I remember you told me, or maybe Brady told me, or Shaleah. I don't remember, but I remember being somewhere and then you were on TV. I was like, what the hell? And I took a picture and I may have texted you.
Yeah,
the TV screen.
I remember that.
Okay.
You were probably in some like courtyard.
I was at a Marriott courtyard in like Wichita, Kansas at a job site review and just waiting. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get back to Hawaii.
You know what? Those things, like they play it forever. I mean, I will look like I'll probably be, 80 years old and they're still playing it in a lobby in Wichita, Kansas.
And do you get residual checks from that?
Wichita is?
Wichita's in Kansas, yes. Do you get residual checks from that?
No.
So it's not like every quarter you'll get like, oh, I got a 75-cent check from HGTV.
Oh, I wish I would be so rich.
75 cents, like there's like a diminishing return of it over
No,
time.
I think they just keep like selling the show. I'll probably be in like some obscure lobby in Europe somewhere in the hostel.
Well,
years later.
I'm really glad you brought up John Staub because it was just yesterday. It was either yesterday or the day before. I saw someone from Keoya, a guy named David, I believe. I was in LA at Alice. And I was recounting a story about how John Staub changed my life.
He changed your life too?
He changed my life.
Is he just like a miracle guy?
He is. And I actually went on my run where I was sweaty today. I went into the Moana Surf Rider to the big banyan tree and took a picture. And to send it to the two people I was talking to at Alice. I think it was David. I just met him. I have his card. So I was just awarded one of the towers to do the furniture at the Moana Surf Rider. So I said, hey, John, let's go have a drink. Thank you. So we sat under the banyan tree. And it must have been 2013, 14. I don't remember. Probably the same time you were on TV. And we were sitting there, and as an entrepreneur with ADD, I don't think I'd ever unplugged in like 10 years of being an entrepreneur. So it was just always phone, computer, text, nonstop. And so we were just talking about that under the tree. And he's like, well, you just have to unplug every once in a while. And I said, well, what is that? What do you mean by that? He said, well, I unplug twice a year for 4 weeks each. So I'm like, and as he's telling me that, I'm getting like a panic attack. I'm like, how the hell?
I know.
How the fuck do you do that?
Yeah.
He's like, I have a really good team. I was like, okay, well, I'm still kind of just starting and I have a team, but it's not enough to like unplug for 2 months. And I said, but you know what? I'm going with my family. My kids were really little. We went to this family camp called Rockywold Deephaven camps out in New Hampshire for, 10 years over July 4th. And it was our first time going. And July 4th was on a Wednesday. So I was leaving. I was probably with him in June. Mm-hmm. So like 3 weeks later, I was going there. I was like, you know what, John? Or he said, well, you're going away for a week. Why don't you just take that week and try with 1 week? And I said, okay.
Totally unplug.
Totally unplug. Okay. Like there's Wi-Fi.
Normally you would probably like still be plugged in.
Correct. Well, okay. there is Wi-Fi at this camp. There's everything. But I made a promise to myself to not touch my phone or computer for 1 week. And July 4th was on a Wednesday, so I felt I could do it. Yeah. But like Thursday morning, I woke up in complete panic. But I just breathed and I chilled out and I fought it. And like I wasn't even picking up my phone to take pictures of my kids. Like I was literally.
Oh, wow. Analog.
Yeah. Okay. Totally analog. And so anyway, I wrote him I wrote a very heartfelt letter, or it was a letter because I sealed it.
It was cursive?
I don't know. He wouldn't be able to read that. My handwriting is terrible. But it was like kind of block letter. And I just said, John, thank you so much. Like you've changed my life. I didn't know that this was possible. Right. I'm going to be in Hawaii in August. I'd love to see you. I sent it and then, went on with my summer. I think in July at some point I said, hey, I'm going to be out there in August. I emailed him. Right. No response. I'm like, well, that's a bummer. So then I found out he had a stroke. Oh, yeah. And I saw him at one of the trade shows. It might have been HD Vegas. And he was on one of those rascals going around. Yeah. And I ran up to him and I gave him a big hug. And he goes, yeah, I got your letters, kind of like in a sassy voice. I got it, but you can see I've been busy. Yeah. Like healing, rehabilitation. And he said, but now you see why it's so important to do that. Yeah. And I said,
oh, that's sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. So then every year over July 4th, I would do that. But since the pandemic, I haven't done it. So now I've been really thinking about it a lot. I really need to fully go analog for a week. Do you do anything like that to recharge?
It's funny. I talked about that as the goal for this year. I think I did it once on my honeymoon in Tahiti, and it was a little hard to get the Wi-Fi where we were at. So I was like, whatever, and it felt really good. It takes a while to like fully decompress. It's faster when you fully unplug that way. When you're checking all the time, it's harder. But it's really a goal. And I think like creatively to recharge
Totally
is important, because if you're always on behind the screen, how are you going to learn anything new? So I find my best ideas when I'm like not working.
Yeah, I find my best ideas come when I'm going for a walk or a run or a
you're
hike.
Running, right?
Yeah, it's almost it's like I'm exerting myself, but I'm really focused on breathing and kind of not focused. It's almost meditative in a way.
Right.
Right.
Or when you're bored. I feel like when you allow yourself to get bored.
You bring up a really good point, because I remember as a kid being bored a lot. And I really feel sad for my kids and their friends, because with all the phones and all the screens, no one's ever really bored anymore.
Right.
And I think good ideas and imagination come from being bored.
100%. I haven't seen John Staub in a really long time. It sounds like he goes around the world and just tries to reposition people's lives in a better direction.
Well, he did with me. I need to definitely reach out to him. He's like, I'm so grateful for that kind of course adjustment he gave me.
Yeah.
Right. But also, speaking of that, like, there's so many Hawaiian design firms, right? You being one of them. And and obviously there's so many hotels on all of the islands and just other projects. I noticed that oftentimes Hawaiian firms will design Hawaiian projects and mainland firms will design Hawaiian projects, but I see very rarely that Hawaiian firms will design mainland projects.
Right.
Like, have you noticed that? And is there a solve for it?
I would love to hear the solve for it, because it's always been a struggle for us to be sort of valued the same as a mainland designer would be. And, we have great projects and we have great clients, but they've majority have been like 99% of them have been in Hawaii. We've done stuff in Nashville and things like that, they hired us because they knew us from Hawaii, but it's very hard for us to go outside. And I don't know why that is, but I could assume it's because people feel like Hawaii is so far away and it's very specific to its culture, and that we have one look, the Zoolander one look, but
the blue steel.
The blue steel. But I think we have to really work extra hard to prove that we can do other things.
But you do have a footprint in the mainland.
We do. So Shaleah Soliven is my associate designer, and she's rad, and she's out in Seattle.
I've known her forever.
I know, she's so nice, isn't she?
Yeah, I think I worked on one of her first projects as a designer. I think she was at Gensler many, many moons ago in LA.
Yeah.
And
she's a force.
Yeah.
I mean, this lady has 3 kids, and she's like, I remember when she first started working with us.
Can you say wahine?
Yeah, wahine.
This wahine?
This wahine.
Has 3 kids. Did I say it right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
I mean, actually, it's wahine, but
wahine.
But wahine.
Okay.
Yeah, this wahine. She has 3 kids, and at the time, I think her son was 4, and she threw a party for her husband. She worked a full day. I went over to her house afterwards. She had a full lamb roast cooked, craft cocktails. She picked up her kids. I mean, I don't know how this girl does everything. And she's so good. She's like 100% all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really lucky.
I think I need to tell Daniel that I need to go to Seattle next time. Have Shaleah cook me a lamb roast.
I mean, she's serious.
Did she bury it in the ground with banana leaves?
No, hard to get in Seattle, those banana leaves.
It is, and it's a little too rainy.
Yeah.
So no, but okay. So I'm gonna push you a little bit here. So I saw you in November in New York City, and you're very good about, you particularly are really good about going to all of the events, whether it's an ILC event, a BD event, a HD event, and really good at networking and seeing what's going on out there. But then you were up for this Gold Key Award and you won.
Yeah.
How important do you think that would be as far as helping get more work in the mainland?
You know, it's funny that you say that because everyone recently thinks that's our first Gold Key Award. We won. That's our second Gold Key
I
Award.
didn't know that.
Yeah, we won.
See, poor research. I forgot about your TV thing also.
Where's your whole staff?
Yeah.
Digging up stuff.
Damn it.
No, but I mean, this kind of goes back to your answering your question. In 2016, we won for best public space or lobby. I think best lobby.
Which one?
For the Surfjack
Oh, no way.
Hotel. Yeah. And at the time, it was just like, I think it was just 2 people working in our office. So it was a really, I mean, no one knew us. We're small, little business, and we were able to compete on that level, and we won. And still no one knew us. And it was like, we were thinking that something was going to happen big. Like we were going to get phone calls. We were going to get like asked to do, you know, major projects in the mainland, like nothing. I think the crew from Surfjack, like the owners and the developers.
Who are the owners and developers of that?
So that was, the majority owner was Green Oak. And then, of course, Ben Rafter.
Oh, Ben.
Sandler.
I just saw
And
him
I think,
from afar. We were like 20 feet from each other and winked at each other.
Yeah.
I think. Okay.
and then I think Eric Warner and Stephen Chen stayed on as minority.
Okay.
But no.
I love those guys.
Yeah, so it was a fun group. And I think, you know, having done that successfully, because it was successful for them financially, that we got more work from that team. But beyond that, I mean, one guy I met right after the award ceremony was like, "Oh, where are you based out of? Oh, Hawaii. Oh, maybe something closer to Asia." And I'm like, well,
We're American.
awesome. They say like, "Oh, when we go back to the States," I'm like, "We are a state."
Exactly.
You know? And you travel all the time,
Yes.
right? So like for us, minimum travel time is 5 hours. And it's no big deal. Like I was just in LA for the weekend for a girl's like birthday trip. 2 days and I came back. So it's
I
not
wonder
a big
if it's
deal.
like from like a contractual perspective, maybe ownership groups or project managers think that there would be too much of a travel cost to come to the mainland. But tickets are pretty darn reasonable too. I mean, it's not
Tickets
like,
are reasonable. I'm up there all the time. Shaleah lives up there.
yeah.
So it's not
And you have an office there.
it's not a big deal. Travel, you know, now, especially after the pandemic, the way that we communicate is a lot more accessible as well. So
you know what? One of my favorite movies is Billy Madison. And I bring this up all the time.
Is that the one with Adam Sandler?
Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
But you know, he's in story time with like, it's almost nap time, and Miss Lippy is reading a story about some dog that gets lost. I can't remember the name of the dog, but she's like, and then little Billy put posters all over town asking to help find his dog. And all the kids are kind of falling asleep. And then the end. And then Billy Madison, Adam Sandler's like, wait, Miss Lippy, hold on. You're telling me this kid goes around and puts up all these signs and he doesn't go that extra mile? He doesn't try and like call his friends and do all this? He's like, Miss Lippy, he's got a job. He's got a responsibility. He's got to find that fucking dog. I love it. So to me,
Do I got to go out there?
you got to go out there. I mean, you're out there. Maybe Shaleah's got to get out there
Yeah.
and go push her out the door.
Yeah. No, you know, I don't go to all the things. I'm not
You
like,
go to a lot of them.
well, I go there for like creative,
Mhm.
like ammo, basically. I'm not like a great networker.
Mm.
I got my own like style. Everyone has their own style. I'm more like, I don't want to meet anybody just to network. I want to really like meet somebody and actually have a good conversation.
Deep, meaningful conversation.
Yeah. I'm not one of those that stand there and talk to you and then look beyond you.
Mhm.
Past
I'm
you.
guilty of that sometimes.
Are you?
Oftentimes. I try really hard to
You know,
focus
is it
when I'm talking.
is your ADD?
It is, but I remember hearing a story about, I forget what president it was. It might have been John F. Kennedy. And someone was talking about like what they appreciated about President Kennedy.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on the president. But they said, like, in all these events and all these people, and everyone would always be around at these gala events, but he was like better than any human being of locking in a conversation and being 100% present at what was being said. So I really beat myself up when I'm talking to someone, and then I do that look, because like if it's a trade show or someone's walking by, but I just have to lock in.
Well, I am ADD too. Like, so I often get sick of my own conversation that I'm having. Like midway through my sentence, I'm already thinking about something else. So it's really a struggle to keep
it all together.
Keep it all together.
Well, but going back to your kind of the premise of the line of questioning is.
This is our ADD conversation.
No, the squirrel. Are there squirrels in Hawaii?
No.
Oh, okay, good. Can't bring them here. Do not bring squirrels. They'll check you at the thing. But you are putting yourself out there. I see you at the places. But maybe that has to go with the prejudice. I'm going to say prejudice. I think maybe it's a clumsy word, but or the preconceived notion that for whatever's keeping Hawaiian design firms from doing more work on the mainland, you're out there, you're doing it, you're winning awards, you're on fucking TV, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
I wonder why. It's like
I'm not a hard seller. And I don't know if that works for anybody. That's a creative to be a hard seller. I just feel like I'm still in the process of this is what I do. If you like it, I don't know. Come here, come our way, give me a call.
But you've built quite a track record of projects and happy clients and success, right?
Yeah.
If you were to think about a hotel project for you that, like you said before, for Green Oak and Ben and Stephen and Eric, it was financially very rewarding. A lot of that has to do with buying right and repositioning and getting the rates up, right? Because then that increases the NOI and the overall value of the project. What's a really great example of where you guys came in, the Vanguard theory, and really repositioned something in a major way that was a resounding success?
We're pretty scrappy when we work with our clients. I think we understand the goal. So a lot of Ben's projects, he takes, and Ben Rafters from Springboard, but when he went to the ownership side, he found, and he's very familiar with all these distressed properties in Waikiki. And he finds those things and he comes to us, and he's built on the relationship we had on Surfjack, and would be like, can you give me a new concept? And he just is like, hey, you guys are the creatives, let's just do it. And so when we know the goal and we know his budget and timeline, we just have that relationship that we can get there. So we've got, White Sands was one of them that we did with him. Renew was another one. What we did the branding for that one too. And most of our projects were pretty scrappy. And I feel like we are given a challenge of X amount per key. And we do this beautiful design. And a lot of times when people are not familiar with working with us, they'll look at it and go, now that's too expensive. You can't hit that budget. I'm like, just let us work it.
And you've already done your homework.
We just know what material costs, dimensions are. So we design around those things. And we know how much it costs to get things to Hawaii and how long it takes to get things to Hawaii. That's an added cost. So when we started doing projects in the mainland, I swear, it was nice because we had a cushier budget, because there's not this 25 to 30% freight.
Oh, haircut.
Yeah. And then there's not this there's just so many more options when you work in projects in the mainland. So when we do it, it's just it flies by fast, and we get to a better product because now we're just not limited to getting things to the middle of the Pacific. So sorry, I'm on this rant here, but I feel like...
Yeah, you have a lot of headwinds to have a successful project because there's a 30% freight headwind and really... installation and labor and installation. Everything is just so much more here. So there's so many more constraints.
There's so many. And then the permitting process here is bananas. Bananas. It takes 9 to 12 months to get your permit. I'm not kidding. So we strategize on turning in some like documents, and then we go back to the furniture. It's just like, we end up being part of the conversation of development, not just a consultant, like, let's get some, cosmetic things in there. We're talking about like major strategy on like logistics and for FF&E and also for permitting.
Maybe the angle to take is for mainland projects. Look, there's constraints on every project, so I don't want to minimize that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I love the idea of how you said being scrappy because you have so many headwinds and so many constraints.
Yeah.
It's like in the mainland, you don't have that 30% headwind of freight, logistics, handling, and that you could do even more out there.
Yeah. And then you know what I love about working in the mainland is if you're on a project, say you're doing a lobby, which we've kind of done, and you like, I need accessories, or I need whatever, like a lamp or what, you can go out and get those things. In Hawaii, there's nothing. We have to order, and then we have to either fly there to look at it in person
or go to an ABC store.
Our accessories are macadamia nuts on the shelf.
Yes. Chocolate covered. We're going to do chocolate covered, caramel covered.
I don't know if we can afford the chocolate covered.
Oh, right. Okay.
We're scrappy, remember?
Scrappy, totally. Yeah, I'm actually perplexed about that as well. And that, but I also think like on the other side of that coin, I think it's, there's an extra challenge for a mainland non-Hawaiian design firm to do projects here. And a lot of them do projects here, but I think they have to be really sensitive to the fact that they're not like putting tiki heads everywhere or like kind of making it a Disney-ified version of what Hawaii is. Yeah.
And I appreciate when non-local design teams come here and want to consider the culture. And there's a fine line of appropriation, right, and celebration. So I think it's sometimes it's a kick in the gut when you see somebody that's not local talk about like explaining the culture to you of where you live. So I'm seeing a lot more people trying to engage with cultural consultants or like local people, but I would really like to see people engage with local fabricators, local artists, local designers. And that's something that's really important to us because we can have one lens as a design firm and design something that we say, this represents the community. Yeah. But if we don't engage the community, that's not really authentic. And that's what we really believe in when we did projects elsewhere. We make sure to engage like the craftspeople, the artists, the whoever, the designers of that community, because it's not just our lens, it's the community's lens of telling that story and showing hospitality.
I want to pull on the scrappy thread a bit more. Does my memory serve me right that when you started Vanguard Theory, as far as to like just get business and do stuff, you would do like specifications and drawing, like you were like almost like an outsourced specification writing, drawing, like what, like how did you, when you decided to start it in the wake of the financial crisis, like what were the types of projects you were doing then to like your approach now?
So, I mean, we started it during the recession, like the wake of the recession. So not a great time to start a business.
Also a great time to start a business too.
Also a great time.
But typically not a great time.
Nobody's knocking on our doors for any projects. But when they did, we noticed that some of the big design firms, they were running thin. They just laid off their whole staff and they probably had like one or two people. So when they got a hotel project or a big commercial project, they didn't have the staff, but they knew us. So we come and augment their team. So we ended up doing like design sourcing. So some of them like had hospitality experience, but in one lane. And they knew coming from where we came from, we did residential and we did hospitality. So we could bring in more sources. So we started doing design sourcing for them, specification writing, drawings. So we helped build their team.
And what was your first full big shot?
We did with ADI, we did the Westin Maui Resort and Spa. It was 552 rooms at Ocean Tower.
Wow.
Yeah, that was our big one that we did with them.
And how did you get them to believe in you and take the leap with you as a new company?
Jim Otanaga, he was one of the principals there. And he knew us because he used to work long ago.
Did he come from Outrigger?
He came from, I don't know, but he worked at Philpotts long ago, way before me.
The name sounds very familiar.
He's a purchasing guy now, JMI. Wow. But I think he purchased Halipuna.
Okay.
And then Judy went to go work with him.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got a job with him because I think he was running lean. It was just him. And he was at that time in his career that he kind of wanted to retire. So he just really wanted to be client facing, but not necessarily in the weeds. So we were in the weeds, and it was a great relationship. And we did many projects with him and ADI, but that was the first real big one when we started our company.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then being an entrepreneur in Hawaii.
Yeah.
As like a founder.
Yeah.
What do you think your biggest challenge has been? I guess it doesn't even have to be in Hawaii. It could be anywhere.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel this way, but maybe it's because I'm a woman too. The scale. Wahine. Yeah.
It's with a V?
The W's are V's most of the times.
In German. Wahine.
Yeah. But we say wahine.
Okay.
Scaling. So I think, that risk factor of scaling really big and then having to lay off a bunch of people is pretty crappy.
Yeah.
In Hawaii, it's it's super busy and we're small. So we're it's super busy and then it'll go, something happens like SARS or the president says, or the governor says, don't visit Hawaii. And then tourism goes down and we're economic slump. So we're very sensitive here. So I think being an entrepreneur, it's just I'm very careful about scaling, and I know I should push. And I've had people tell me hey, you got to be more out there and push. But I feel I just would see my stepdad when I was younger just getting laid off time and time again. And I know it really sucks. So I don't want to put anybody in that position.
So as an entrepreneur, I was all about scale and grow and grow and grow. And I was in this whole peer group where it was all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
However, in all these, I call them business porn books, one of the books should be a book, and I brought it up a couple times on this pod, but it's called Small Giants and just focusing on being great.
Right. I've seen that book around.
It's a good one. And he talks to all these private entrepreneurs or private companies. Some are pretty big that just choose to stay small and great and focused on where they are.
Right.
And look, there's a spectrum to everything. There's benefits to scale and growth. There's also benefits to being really focused and niched down into a really specific set. Okay, but I appreciate that because it's the accordion, being able to flex and be like an accordion as the business is coming in is really important to stay nimble, especially.
I think that's the one. The thing I'm not the only person that runs against this issue though, is that I didn't really have business people in my life growing up. I didn't have somebody to look up to. I don't have a mentor. Mm-hmm. So I think I just learned by failure and being really broke all the time. And so it pushed me to work harder. I either, had to give up and walk away with my tail between my legs or just push harder. And I think that failure really pushed me harder. And there's so many blind spots that I have. And I'm learning every day. And it would be really great. It'd be so awesome if there was a sage interior designer who owned a firm would be Michelle, let me take you under your wing. But I feel I learn best when I go through the fire and I burn myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My son was just writing an essay. He's 13, and I was reading it, and I was really impressed. But he pulled something from like a childhood basketball coach who's also a friend, Coach Mackey. Give him a shout out. But Theo, my son, wrote, I remember back like failure. I learned from failure, and I had a basketball coach when I was a kid. He's still a kid, but he would say, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
And I think like as an entrepreneur being in a dark time, I brought this up before as well. It's coming out of a dark time of failure. I remember being on a bus and seeing a woman in a shirt ahead of me. I was with my daughter. We were heading up to the Catskills to go to a friend's. And she was leaning forward. I couldn't read it. And then finally she leaned forward enough that I could see her shirt. It said, failure is just unfinished learning.
Mm-mm.
And somehow that T-shirt philosophy was like a really pivotal like antidepressant. It was really, it like helped me get back up on the purpose horse.
The purpose horse.
Yeah.
I like that.
That was good.
No, yeah.
Giddy up.
I feel like, now that we're talking about this, I feel like, the hesitation to scale, that kind of fear about laying people off and things. I think for me, and maybe this is a woman thing, is that the risk is more relationships. It's not monetary. It's not like sort of like creatively or any of those things. It's really like relationship. Like, am I going to fail this person?
Yeah.
Or, so I think, I don't know if that's a woman thing. It sounds like it is, but
I think it's an empathetic psychologist thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, relationships are everything, right? I was once at another entrepreneur event where actually talking about extrovert and introvert. It was this woman, I can't remember her name, Susan Cain or something. She wrote a book called Quiet. And it talks about introverts, extroverts, and she came up with I don't know if she came up with the idea, but it resonated with me of ambiverts. So people that can do both, but need introvert time.
You just sound like you're talented.
And extrovert time. But I was in this room of 100 other entrepreneurs, and they did like some Survey Monkey, like real time thing. And are you like driven, data? It was like basically a Myers-Briggs. There were like 4 things.
Yeah.
And then, and empathetic was one. And then like most everyone was like a I or D, which is like driven, data. And then there was one empathetic one, which was me.
Oh.
And then I was like, what the fuck am I doing in this room with all these people? I'm different. But entrepreneurs take on every kind of shape and size. And
everyone has their own style.
Yeah. And to me, but the reason why I'm sharing that is it's really about interpersonal relationship, that space between that and that the relationship that exists between that is really valuable. And that's why I would feel bad if I were laying someone off.
Yeah.
Right? And it's that relationship. It's not the money. I've never done all this stuff for the money. I've always thought that the money would follow if I'm really doing what I love.
Yeah. I think, some of my team members have told me that one of the best things about working here is the culture. And it's really important to me because you see these people more than you see your own family sometimes. And I mean...
No, I think all the time.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Because if you factor in sleep and work, there's there's some shoulder time.
Right. I definitely talk to them more.
Yeah.
And it's important. You want to come to work and you want to like the people that you work with, and you want to, and we do these things on Monday. It's Inspiration Monday, where we talk about anything we're inspired by. It doesn't have to be design related. And it's like, it's fun to learn about people outside of work. You're like, you always think of them as something like, what did I hear? Somebody said like, when you see in elementary school, when you see your teacher out of school.
Oh, it's
like,
weird. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, whoa. she's grocery shopping. You're like, whoa.
She's like a human.
She's like a human.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. So every Monday I'm like, wow, there you are. So I think it's important to have like a good culture in a workplace, and we certainly have one. And I feel like, I know you should never say family. It should be more like a team.
Mm-hmm.
But I really feel like I don't want to let them down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ohana.
I
also, so go t-shirt philosophy, there was and blind spots. It made me think of kind of supermarket philosophy. So seeing the teacher, you're like, oh wow, that's a real person. Yeah. It's not like this mythical God that I'm like worshiping every day, or I have to like be subservient to. I had a really interesting New York City supermarket experience once where, New York City, everything is fast. You're going. And then I remember going in one of these small grocery store, not supermarket, but they call it that, just smaller. And like someone's leaning over trying to find the box of pasta or something. And I'm like getting really frustrated, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Impatient. And then I go around to the next aisle, and then I'm looking for some spice, and it's on the bottom. And then I'm down there trying to do it. And I was like, oh my God,
that guy.
I just became what I hated 5 seconds ago. I was like, you know what? I just got to chill out.
Yeah.
But that was like a good looking in the mirror blind spot reduction for me.
Empathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you're looking forward to what's out in the future, long-term, mid-term, near-term, it doesn't matter. What's exciting you most about what you're up to?
So we love to think of ourselves as creatives, and that interior design is our platform right now. And you just mentioned being ADD. I think this is the perfect job for me because I get to do many things, but creatively, I am really excited for our team to like do other things besides interior design. So, I mean, quietly, we've been doing, or maybe not so quietly, in all of our projects, we do collaborations with artists. So we take their art and we use it and reformat it for fabric, wall covering. We design our own lighting. We design all our own furniture. So we're trying to put something together where we have our own stuff.
Cool.
And I think really would want to continue to work and collaborate with artists to do this. But I think it would be a nice creative shift.
Yeah, and it's like you're building intellectual property, right? You have this whole catalog of past work, and you're doing all this stuff all day, every day. It's nice to have it out there and in a way monetize that in some way. So it's like this evergreen creative space.
I think for so long, we were fortunate to have our clients include us in their marketing. They don't have to do that. I think a lot of people will say, here's our hotel. This is the design. But now more people are saying, and the designer was the Vanguard theory. And it's great. Our clients have been very generous in doing that. But we weren't able to kind of craft our own narrative. The narrative was always put out there by our projects and what their needs were. So I think it's time that we sort of craft our own narrative and kind of put the greatest hits together and say, like, this is who we are. We are Hawaii, and we're proud of it. And I think Hawaii is a really lucrative brand. And if you look, even in the mainland, you'll see like poke bowls, you'll see Hawaiian chips, you'll see like Maui this or whatever, and it's not from Hawaii.
Yeah.
So we know that Hawaii aesthetic, tropical aesthetic, surf aesthetic is super marketable. And we want to say our point of view coming from Hawaii, this is what it means for us. And you can take something authentic away with you if you work with us. So I think that's our goal this year, is to kind of trickle out into other creative avenues, because all of us, I mean, especially on Mondays now, we know all of us have other creative interests that we want to explore.
I love it. And whatever I can do to help, I'm here to help.
Thanks.
So now I just have an aside story or a question for you. There'll be like a severe weather front or a tsunami warning and the phones go. Meh, meh.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, someone somewhere in Hawaii pushed the wrong button and it said like incoming nuclear attack.
Right.
It was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very curious, where were you when that came through and what were you thinking?
Listen, I don't know if like it was just some weird reflex or something where it really, like your personality, I think really shines when something like that happens, right? You're either fight, flight, or freeze. I was laughing. I don't know what happened, but I was in my apartment building and I mean, no one has ever prepped us for that. I mean, actually, you know what? When we were younger, this is bananas. When we were younger, I remember being in elementary school and the sirens going off and we all had to hide underneath our desks because, you know,
Duck
like,
and cover.
you know, we had,
There's a lot of military.
Pearl Harbor was not that long ago.
And there's a lot of very important military installations out here.
Yeah, but like hiding on your desk, what is that going to do, right? But so remember this thing went off. I had no food in my refrigerator. I took a Brita water pitcher and a Cliff Bar. And I just started laughing. And I mean, I went down to the basement, which is air conditioned, so it wasn't like a big deal. But I remember seeing people running around our building with their children and they were terrified. I felt really bad for that, but I couldn't stop laughing at the situation. But you should have seen, like, I left after everything was called down. I left and I don't know, I was driving to a friend's house and it was chaotic. There were drunk people on the road. I mean, I heard like a fancy golf club here at Wailea. I heard people were going behind the bar, like old little ladies and just chugging top shelf.
No way. Oh, see, I haven't heard all this. I don't know what made me just think of it, but that's just like a crazy
Should it be a movie?
I think it could be a movie. Yeah, 100%.
I feel like that's like that was a movie. Wasn't that like a weird,
I don't
like
know.
Seth Rogen type of?
Oh, maybe when LA like got devoured by a volcano or something like that. I forgot though. That was a weird one.
Yeah. Weird.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, the person I was with at the time was not laughing. They were calling everyone saying, I love you. And I was just like.
How long did it take before they said, oh, it was a mistake?
You know, I don't remember. I don't think it was like super long.
How do you push a wrong button like that? That's just crazy.
Well.
It's a mistake.
Don't you? In my mind, there's one of those plastic things that cover.
Yeah. And two people have to like turn a key at the same time before you push that.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just like a test of like a mass psychosis test. And they just measured how everyone reacted.
Some like curious kid was like, what does this do? Just
and you're like, well, and here we know that this one, and maybe there were a couple others they saw in some kind of video that started laughing. And they're like, these are the people we need for the arc.
Probably like a stress laugh or something. I don't know.
I think we just came up with an idea for a show. Michelle, this has been awesome. If people wanted to learn more about you or Vanguard Theory, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Our website, thevanguardtheory.com.
Right. And seriously, I know I've wanted to do this since November. I'm glad we're doing it in person.
Glad.
Mahalo, 1,000 mahalos. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
It really is.
Fun.
And hey, listeners, thank you for all listening, because without you listening and showing such interest in these amazing guests that we have, I wouldn't be sitting here in Hawaii with Michelle having this conversation. Yeah. So mahalo to all of you, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.